Vice Mayor Keating, we're all ready for you.
Thank you, Alex. I call this meeting of the Workforce Readiness and Economic Vitality Council Committee to order, and I want to read this following statement. Due to concerns over exposure to the coronavirus, the city has implemented measures to protect our community, including the closing of council chambers and limiting public attendance to electronic means only. Members of the public may attend virtually through Cisco WebEx events or view the meeting recording by visiting tempe.gov/WREV for more information. Call to order and roll call. We have Councilmember Readiness Savage and myself here, along with several other staff members. The second item on our agenda is review the first council committee meeting minutes from April 26th, 2001. Councilmember Readiness Savage, do you agree with our minutes?
I do. Vice Mayor?
Thank you very much. Our next item on our agenda is public comments. The committee welcomes public comment. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the committee may only discuss items listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public appearances that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. Do we have any public comment cards submitted?
We have one public comment card from Jake Hyman, just indicating that he is a stakeholder and will be speaking under item 4A1 for prevailing wage.
Great. And I understand that we want to move the agenda around a little bit. Is that correct, Alex?
That is correct.
Okay, so what item are we taking first?
We will be taking the team Tempe Business Assistance Summary, item 4A2 first.
4A2. Okay, Robin, would you like to, or Councilmember Readiness Savage, you want to introduce that item, or shall I?
Why don't you go ahead, Vice Mayor?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Yep. Item 4A2, the Team Tempe Business Assistance Summary from April 2020 through May 2021, a proposed business recovery program. I want to call upon Jill Bushbacher to provide us with a presentation.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Keating and Councilmember Readiness Savage. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about Team Tempe's accomplishments and a proposed business recovery program list that we'd like to share with you. We appreciate, again, your time. Team Tempe is composed of a few different entities that are here with us today that'll be presenting as well. Downtown Tempe Authority, next slide, please. Tempe Chamber of Commerce, our tourism office, Tempe Tourism, and of course our Economic Development Department. And we don't want to forget that our PR, marketing, and communications folks have been instrumental during this time and very valuable members of this team as well from each of our organizations. We've been meeting weekly throughout this pandemic and sometimes even more often than that as needed. And we've really developed a core team here of folks that are working feverishly and doing all that we can to try to help our businesses, especially our small businesses who've been most affected during this time. Next slide, please. So some of the great programs that we've been able to put together during this time, and partly in thanks to council being generous with providing some funding so that we could roll out these programs last year and earlier this year, which we're very appreciative of. Some of the programs are the Small Business Grant Program, the Safety Supply Program, and the Buy Now, Save Local campaign. You may be somewhat familiar with these, but we just wanted to recap kind of all of them today for you and kind of tie them all up in a nice bow so that you know everything that we've been working on together over these last 14 months. We had 183 grants that we were able to award, and we're very proud that about 30% of those were awarded to minority or women-owned businesses. The Safety Supply Program we felt was also really important to provide to our small businesses in order that they could keep their employees and their customers healthy and happy and build consumer confidence and know that businesses were following, all the rules and keeping everyone safe during this time. We were able to impact about 750 companies. And we want to make sure and give a shout out, especially to our chamber ambassadors, because they were really instrumental in getting these out. All of our partners were, but they especially went above and beyond in delivering these supplies. And some of you on the council also delivered them to our businesses. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. The Buy Now Save Local campaign was one in which we were letting folks know which businesses were open. And even during the times when some of them were not able to be open, it was a way that businesses could purchase digital gift cards and support our local businesses in kind of a new, innovative way while staying safe and staying indoors and sheltering. So it was able to raise $78,000 in revenue and impact about 113 of our businesses. Just a few of our other programs. There are too many to mention, but we really can't thank you enough, Councilmember Arredondo Savage, for hosting business roundtables where we were able to feature some helpful resources to get immediate word out to our businesses about some of the loan and grant and other items available to them during this time. The emergency loan program was something we were proud to be able to roll out early on, in which the city guaranteed 14 loans to a variety of Tempe businesses, and just a variety of other things here that really were made possible by all of our efforts combined. And I'd like to turn it over now to my colleague Lori Foster with Downtown Tempe Authority.
Thank you, Jill. I wanted to recap the initiatives that we put in place in order to support the merchants downtown as soon as the pandemic became a big force. We worked to create the open status guide, communicating with the public on what the status of each business was, if they were open, what their hours were. We created a merchant recovery resource page to list all of the resources, including funding and resources from all of our strategic partners available to help businesses in their time of need. We conducted a lot of surveys with the downtown merchants and category-based merchant roundtables to find out what it was that they needed so that we could figure out how to help them the best. That resulted in helping 165 downtown businesses and keeping them in contact with needed resources. We also worked to bring people downtown in safe ways to support the businesses. And so we found that our strolls were an event that it was possible for us to do that. And so we organized our foodie strolls. We had a Halloween stroll. We did some art scavenger hunts and honored Black History in February. We had an average of about 250 to 300 people at the strolls and 718 people downtown trick-or-treating right before Halloween. Our operations and marketing services, we maintained our full service safety patrol to keep downtown safe. And we developed a Stay Safe, Stay Supportive campaign and a Tempe Tough video. Basically, we wanted to get the word out that downtown was a safe place to be and that safety protocols were in place. And we highlighted the businesses that were doing a good job. Next slide, please. Additionally, we developed right off the bat a virtual tip jar for 150 downtown workers. As businesses closed, we knew there was a wage issue and people were looking ways to support their employees. So we started a virtual tip jar. We supported the Takeout Tuesday campaigns. We created carryout, delivery, and curbside zones in support of the merchants so their customers could get to them, as well as the third-party delivery services. Immediately, a lot of the retail banks closed, and so we were available for merchant currency service, making change. And we also provided on-street parking and increased downtown cleaning protocols to keep the public right of way and the street furniture and elevator buttons and you name it clean. And in addition, we conducted daily walkabouts to talk face-to-face with the merchants about what their needs are, and conducted both DTA and participated in national consumer sentiment surveys to help gather data and information to share with our strategic partners. And now I'd like to pass it along to Ann Gill from Chamber of Commerce.
All right. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Keating and Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Thank you much for the opportunity to be here. It's challenging to put into about 3 minutes the work that we've done over the past 15 months, not only at the Chamber, but with our partners here. So since March 20th, we provided small business disaster planning webinars almost on a regular weekly basis, especially in the beginning. Everything from understanding the different SBA loan opportunities to the new HR requirements with the Pandemic Family Medical Leave Act that affects all businesses, not just those with 50 employees or more. Gave our businesses ways to grow their digital presence, which is so important in today's changing environment. And we were able to reach more than 734 businesses through these programs. And I'm proud of the work my team did to quickly create a one-stop shop of vetted and accurate information for our members and the community on our website. Our COVID resource page also included what Tempe businesses were providing during the pandemic. So whether they were providing free telecom services, free advertising, or PPE to make sure that our community was connected. We created a service industry Facebook group for businesses and gave the community a way to connect. And I think the thing that we heard the most was that we became that one-stop shop of information that our members didn't have to search and find it. They knew where to go and get accurate information and most current from our website. Focusing on our mission has really enabled us to represent Tempe businesses at the federal, state, and local levels. The Tempe Chamber has advocated on our members' behalf to assure our agencies and elected officials understand the economic damage that COVID-19 and related public policy responses had inflicted on our Tempe business community. And some examples of that work have been identifying CARES Act dollars by working with Congressman Stanton's office for a Tempe manufacturer who was able to switch their production line to produce PPE face shields. At the state level, we worked with the legislature and the governor's office to pass legislation to ensure Arizona businesses acting in good faith during the pandemic are protected against frivolous civil claims. And locally, we helped Dirk's Moving and Logistics, an official FEMA ventilator distributor for Maricopa County. They needed to get their temporary C of O from the city of Tempe in order to receive a shipment of 3,000 ventilators. So conversation with the community development director, they had their C of O within 48 hours, allowing them to receive those much needed ventilators. So throughout the pandemic, we have called all of our members to identify the challenges that they're facing and to make sure that we can provide the solutions that they need. In addition, as Jill mentioned, our ambassadors helped deliver 375 supply kits to Tempe brick and mortar locations throughout the city of Tempe. And these volunteers were small business owners themselves who really understood how important those PPE kits were. And so next slide, Jill, thanks. So whether it's been connecting the CEO of Hound to the city of Tempe to help bring about the Buy Now, Save Local campaign, or introducing them to the CEO of Desert Financial to help implement the small business emergency loans, we've been constantly working to help our members solve their problems. The connections we've made have run the gamut from connecting PPE fabricators to hospital supply chains, and also connecting our local nonprofits to donors and volunteers. Our efforts have helped feed 100,000 Tempe families, and we've collected 4 truckloads of donations for Treasures for Teachers. And we're proud to partner with the City of Tempe's Economic Development Department, the DTA, and Tempe Tourism on these efforts. And the spirit of collaboration is strong and vital to Tempe's recovery, and we truly appreciate the Council's support for these programs throughout the pandemic. And next, I'll turn it over to my friend, Michael Martin from the Tempe Tourism Office.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. For the Tempe Tourism Office, we have 3 highlights I want to share with you. Obviously, we've done a lot of different things this past year, but these 3 things kind of rose to the top. In terms of content development, that's a normal activity for us. That's not new. However, what was new is the fact that we had to pivot in terms of what we were focused on. So when it came to content development, it was all about the local businesses, focusing on restaurants and shops, trying to keep up with the number of restaurants that may have closed or were open, who were allowing in dining or doing takeout only. We produced a variety of different videos to support the content. And in fact, what we discovered is that our the number of users from inside the state of Arizona increased pretty rapidly over the course of the pandemic. So it became obvious that our content was really relevant to the local market. People were looking for things that were safe to do outdoors. Our reach for Tempe Town Lake and hiking was quite large. And so we're really proud of that content. Our team did a great job of keeping everything up to date so that people were able to use that resource. As a matter of fact, our blog content ranged anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes on site for users. So that was really telling that people were looking for this information. Additionally, we did a holiday promotion. Normally our advertising campaigns fall during the fall timeframe, and then spring, and then summer. We usually go dark in December because it's very difficult to generate, work with competition around the holiday season, the month of December. However, this holiday promotion was focused on shop local, stay local. And so it was a regional campaign. We did a series of videos and photo content to support the promotion. And what I was really excited about is we partnered with KEZ Radio, which is the Christmas radio. And Beth and Friends in the Morning did about 6 weeks of radio prize giveaways that we provided to them. So we had a lot of additional coverage for Tempe and a lot of visits to our website as a result. The other program that we did is partnering with local influencers. On an annual basis, we will usually bring in social influencers from out of state, trying to utilize their followers to further the message about Tempe. And this time around, we started focusing on local influencers, people who are part of the Phoenix metropolitan area who would do posts for our restaurants, attractions, hotels. We had 15 TikTok videos that received over 1.7 million views. And our Instagram stories have more than 55,000 views. So we saw a great increase in our social followers, as well as the number of people sharing our content. So that was really exciting for us. Next slide, please. In addition to those programs, some of the other things that we did this past year, our summer campaign last year, we decided to go ahead and run the summer campaign. It was right at the beginning of COVID. It was somewhat of a gamble for us, to be honest, because we were a little bit worried about the timing, but we felt that it was important to continue sharing the message about Tempe and supporting our hotels, restaurants, and shops. So we moved forward on a summer campaign last year. As a matter of fact, this year we just started our campaign 5 days ago. So we're excited about our summer campaign this year as well. We also supported some local art programs. On the screen, you'll see a photo of the Tempe sign that sits in front of the Hayden House at Rio Salado and Mill. That's a project that we sponsored through the Downtown Tempe Authority. Together, we created this sign to create a place for people to meet, congregate, and take selfies and make it a point of pride. We also are partial sponsors of the Tempe Leadership's mural at the corner, near the corner of 5th and Mill, that is going up right now. We wanted to create or support places where people could come down, create foot traffic for the downtown area, thus supporting the restaurants and shops. Other things we did included our travel safety checklist on our website, our mask up video, and a partnership with Local First Arizona. They started a Shop Arizona marketplace. So we sponsored the ability for 50 local businesses to be able to be part of their marketplace so that they are able to sell their goods online and to compete with the likes of, say, Amazon, that type of thing. So we're really excited about that partnership. And many of these things we'll continue doing well into the future. So thank you for your time. And Jill, I'll pass it back to you.
Next slide, please. So we're going to transition right into what's next, our proposed business recovery programs that we'd like to share with you. We've talked with businesses across the city. Each of our organizations have. We've had surveys. We've been looking at what some of our other partners are doing and best practices. And we think these are the 4 most effective ways that we can help over the next 6 months to a year with our businesses. So I want to talk about just these 4 today very briefly, and then we'd like to get some feedback from you all about your thoughts on these, your level of support for them, and just kind of your thoughts, because you work with businesses. Council member, you own a business and you're very connected to the business community, and Randy, you're very connected to our business community as well. And so we just appreciate your thoughts and your feedback on this, and whether this goes through the existing budget process or this goes through a separate process at another time or in another way. We just really know that our businesses need help. Many of them have been experiencing loss over a year now, And in some cases, maybe they didn't ask for enough money in the PPP, or they weren't quite qualified, but they were just below the mark to qualify. And there's just still a lot of need out there. Next slide, please. So the grant program is to help address some of those needs to cover operational expenses, whether it be for utilities or payroll or rent or mortgage payments. This help is still needed. You may have seen even that one of our regional cities, Gilbert, is going to be launching a similar program. And many of our surrounding cities have done the same and will continue to do the same. So we think it's the right thing to do. There was never enough federal money to go around to really help everyone that needed it anyway. The federal dollars were tremendous and businesses did benefit from them, but those monies are largely gone now, and there's still help needed out there. So we think this is one of the most important programs of the four that we're presenting to you today. Next slide, please. So this micromanufacturing program is really unique, and it's designed to help folks that maybe they're making something in their garage or they're making something at home now, and it would help them really take their business to the next level. And we know that there aren't enough folks of color in this space working in this field and in this industry. And there have been studies and groups that have been looking at this across the valley even recently. And so this is an effort, this particular program, to try to support more people of color to enter into this industry and to help them, launch small businesses and have the right materials and equipment and business coaching through a variety of partners that we've enlisted to work with us on this. We think it's a very exciting and effective program, and we know that it's even under consideration right now for a little bit of funding at the U.S. Congress as well through Councilman Stanton's office. So this could be the city's contribution towards that and could really make a difference in whether these folks actually get to launch a product and launch a business or continue to, kind of just tinker in their garages and hope someday it works. So this could really make a difference and create some great jobs and great businesses in our community. Next slide, please. So as you may have seen in the news, and you're hearing from some of the businesses that you're talking to, or even some of those that you frequent, many of them are still having trouble finding the right employees, especially in those frontline positions. And I mean, we've even been hearing that some of our hotels have had to turn down room reservations because they didn't have enough staff to clean all the rooms to accommodate that many guests. So there are all kinds of things going on in this space that have been very challenging, or some people maybe have been staying in because they haven't been quite comfortable coming back out into the workforce. But now that, many of the schools are back in, and many folks are now vaccinated, there's opportunity and there's a better environment perhaps for folks to feel more comfortable working in these frontline positions. And we want to help our businesses connect with that talent and get people back to work and, get everything moving and get in the right direction. So we think this is one of the most important programs. They're all important, but this one has really been a need, and we think it will continue to be a need. Another thing I just want to add on this note is that we've had some virtual job fairs during this time and been quite successful. We've had a series of 4 of them. And so we have partners that we work with on this that are experts in sourcing candidates and connecting folks. And so we think we have a good team that we can work with to really make this all come to fruition successfully. Next slide, please. Mainstreet 2.0. This is to kind of give another shot in our arm to our downtown businesses. So this would be mini festivals and events where we would have local artists that would be hired, and pop-up experiences and outdoor seating and shade, kind of, a placemaking effort to really create an environment where we can get more folks back in our downtown. Our downtown businesses have really had a difficult time given that so many folks are working remotely and will continue to work remotely. And we're kind of trying to figure out what that new normal is. And we're hearing from many of our larger businesses, especially those in North Tempe, that they're coming back, but they're not coming back in the way that they were before. Those offices are coming back at maybe 60% capacity. Many of them, they're saying their folks are going to work, maybe 3 days a week, and the other 2 days they'll work remotely. And so it's not going to look like it was before for quite some time potentially. And some of those office users are subleasing space to others, and some of them, but this is all taking time. And so as those businesses come back in the fall, and some are not coming back until January, and a few have even said they're really not coming back hardly at all because remote has worked very well for them. We've got to help these businesses that have lost all that lunchtime crowd, and that, that individual that would come after work and get takeout to take home to their family, or they'd buy a birthday gift at lunchtime, or get catering for that meeting at the office. That a lot of that's just gone away. And so we're trying really hard to help replace some of that when these businesses have gone through these losses for more than a year. So this is one opportunity to do that. And I'll just make a quick comment on this one too. It is in the supplemental, but the amount that's in the supplemental does not cover the seating and the shading, and very much a budget towards hiring the musicians and artists. So this would allow really them to be full force events and really attract much larger crowds and make more of an impact on our businesses downtown. Next slide. And this is just a summary of the ask and the amounts that we think it would take to carry off these programs effectively and make an impact on our businesses. There's more detail in the packet about how many businesses can be served and so on at this amount. But we just wanted to share this with you all and let you know this is our funding request. Again, we know that there are opportunities through various processes with the budget, and we're willing to work with the budget office and others to bring this to fruition in the right process that works for everyone. But we want to help our businesses, and we think these are important priorities that the city should look at to make a difference and help them get through this time and come out stronger in the end. And now I think with that, we'll open it up to any questions you all might have, and our partners are all here with us to answer questions as well.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to make some comments about the city's efforts and our partners' efforts during the COVID-19, what was a crisis and became a larger pandemic than I think anyone expected it to be. COVID hit very, very quickly. In fact, I remember my election night party was a week before everything shut down, and no one really was concerned at that time. So the situation changed so rapidly, and our businesses were put under so much stress almost overnight, and created a business environment that had been unheard of or unseen for a very long time. So I was so impressed with the way the city and our partners like the Chamber, Tempe Tourism, and DTA all kind of came together to kind of rally around our business community and make sure that we could get them through those difficult early months when we were still trying to figure out how we were going to operate in a quasi-normal environment as far as business and day-to-day activities go. So really, I think the city's efforts around the existing programs that we have, and now we're talking about expanding to new programs, which I'm fully in support of, really kind of highlights this how nimble city government is and our business community is, and those that run organizations that support both really are in the face of what was very sudden adversity. So I really am thankful for everything that the city staff did and our partners did to kind of keep our community whole. I know we lost some businesses, but others were able to survive because of those efforts, because of the efforts of the city and our partners. So I was very impressed. I remain impressed with how well we kind of got through that. And now as we are starting to see a return to normalcy, I think people can take great pride and satisfaction in the efforts that they and how they contributed to that effort, because a lot of jobs were saved, a lot of livelihoods were saved. Even if not all, it's still a tremendous effort that should be commended. So thank you for that. As far as the new programs are concerned, I'm in support of all of them. The American Recovery Plan, certainly is going to be tremendously helpful. There is at least one item I would like to add to that list. I'm not sure if now is the correct time, I'm trying to figure that out, but I do want to mention at Open Tempe, which was an app that I worked with a local Tempe-based software developer to launch, and it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it just kind of let people know, what businesses were still open and what COVID specials they were having, because at the time you could only get takeout from, bars and restaurants in our city, and those people were really struggling. So it was a way to kind of promote them, and they had pandemic specials. And now that we're kind of returning to normal, and there's no longer these restrictions on these types of retail businesses, I would, in hospitality businesses, I would like to see it expanded a bit to, to include things like being able to search for, minority or women-owned businesses, or being able to update daily specials. Like, for example, Venezia's Pizza has a new slice of the day, every single day, and we don't currently have that functionality. So that would require, the software developer did it out of the goodness of his heart because he wanted to help the city that he lived in, but that would require some additional funding. I don't know what that funding is, but I'm happy to work with that developer or put staff with him directly, to expand that a little bit more, so that that app that has thousands of downloads, which was well beyond my wildest dreams when we launched it, continues to be relevant and continues to help our local business community. So I'll look to staff to see if now is an appropriate time to discuss that. If not, we can talk about it at a future date. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, I want to just say I commend you too, Vice Mayor. I think for you jumping in and really doing that Open Tempe, that app, I thought that was really great way to also highlight our businesses that were still open and doing what they could to get through the pandemic. But the one thing that I love about this presentation is the collaboration. And it's just really one thing that I love about this city and this community is, how well we work together and really want the best for all of our residents and our businesses, and to ensure that, we can be successful because of them and vice versa. So I just really, like, the Vice Mayor said, just want to thank each and every one of you, all of our stakeholders, for everything that you did. I mean, you totally stepped up in a variety of ways, whether it was, the webinars, the resources, the programs, awareness, focused promotion, digital growth, PPE supplies. I mean, you guys really nailed it and did it all. And, and I know there were some casualties, unfortunately, that probably didn't make it. And, as we move forward with this presentation, it's probably going to good to know the entire picture, the comprehensive picture of those businesses that, still really could use some assistance. Obviously, these came to fruition for a reason. So it would be nice to get the data behind that, to understand maybe what those businesses are that didn't make it and why they couldn't make it, and the ones that are maybe barely hanging on, and why this would be so instrumental to, a healthy business and their success. And I think as we look at the ARP money, which is, the American Recovery Plan money, as we get, I mean, obviously that's pretty much already been, the COVID money has been allocated in our budget. And so this is going to be something that we would have to look at for reallocating. But it sounds like, based on some of the new restrictions and guidelines we're getting for the way that stimulus money can be spent, this could be very good timing. So it looks like we are going to have to, maybe do a little bit more homework and make sure that we're allocating the dollars the way that they are intended to be spent as we continue to get that information. And I know Ken Jones and his team will be helping us, guide us through that. And I think it's very important when we talk about a recovery plan that we ensure that we're taking care of our businesses here in our community, because we are nothing without them, and we need them to be upfront and centered and focused, and to be as healthy and successful as possible. So I think that's going to be really important. But obviously this is going to have to go through the budget. The one thing I just struggled a little bit with was the entrepreneur program, the BIPOC manufacturing entrepreneur support. And the only reason I say this is because I'm looking at this coming from a COVID recovery amount of money. And as much as I think this may be important, I think this might be a separate topic. I think, recovery is about getting people back to where they were, not necessarily advancing where they could be. So my thought process is we move through this. If I had to kind of pick and choose and say, hey, absolutely, I love the job fair idea. I think that is one of the things that we have seen so much in the hospitality industry, is the lack of employees. I don't know if you've gone to, maybe a hotel or a restaurant, and they only are supporting half the menu because they can't find the cooks, the chefs to work in the back. And if we can help close that gap, absolutely, I think we're all in. And I was just on the DTA foundation meeting this morning. We really talked about activation and how important it is to get our spaces activated. And I think the positive that it would really create to be able to do that. So those two I certainly appreciate. I know we've already done a grant program with 1.2 million, which is nice. And I do know that there are still businesses out there that may be behind in their mortgage, be behind in their rent, in payroll. And if there is a way that we can help them get to even or back to a place where they can move forward, I 100% I think that we should do that. And so, like I said, as much as I love the idea of the BIPOC micromanufacturing and do believe that there is a gap and a hole and a place for this, I just kind of think that maybe that we might want to address that in a separate issue, especially if we're going to be challenged with reallocating dollars within the budget, because I think, the vice mayor and I know how difficult, working through the budget has really been. And, as we open it up and look for things that truly are impactful, those three things at least raised to the top of my game. And again, I just want to say thank you so much to our stakeholder for everything that you guys do. And, I look forward to this moving through the process and seeing what we can get funded, and those that will truly make a difference. But at the same time, I would love to see the data that made us bring these things forward and really understand those businesses that didn't make it, why they didn't make it, and how this, could possibly help us, get our businesses on solid footing. So again, I really appreciate the information. I don't know, Jill, did you have anything else that you would like to add?
Just thank you all very, very much. And just want to say that we're glad to get you some additional data that you've requested, and appreciate very much all your comments and your support. And we welcome this feedback and look forward to continuing, to work towards bringing some of these programs to fruition. Did any of the partners have anything to add?
Okay, well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the presentation and the information, and we're looking forward to the additional information you're going to bring back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Our next item is under section 4, current items and updates. Except item A1 is prevailing wage update, workforce related policies. I want to call on Judy Ballman and Marilyn DeRosa to provide an update. But Alex, before we do that, do we do the stakeholder comments, or we do that after the stakeholder comments?
I was going to suggest after.
Okay, great.
They have a quick update.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you, Vice Mayor Keating and Councilmember Arredondo Savage. We're going to go through this real quickly. As you know, Judy's here with me, and we've collaborated on this. I want to get through the slides. This is an update, or a preview, I should say, or not a preview. It's a review of what we talked about last month. Next slide, or last month. Next slide, Alex. You guys heard about the applicable law. Judy went over this. It was in a memo that was provided to you as well. Go to the next slide, please. And the next slide. And one of the things we brought up a couple of at the last meeting was that the National League of Cities had been doing some research, and the City of Austin, I know this is of interest to you, council members, the City of Austin has done some other employment rules, I suppose, that would support employees other than prevailing wage, that included some of these benefits, rest break training, safety training, and per diem. The cities of Tucson and Phoenix have looked at this, but haven't moved past conversations. And then, as you know, the Phoenix Union High School District, their governing board passed some relatively gentle language recently with respect to wages. Go to the next slide, please. At their May 6th regular meeting, the board passed
what they refer to as the contractor efficiency and project stability policy. It was 4-3. There was conversation about it, pro and con. And then subsequent to that, the Arizona State Legislature stepped in with House Bill 2014, which would preempt this policy. Next slide, please. So the preemption bill, I know it. I don't know where it is. I know that it left the House, their subcommittee, then it left the House, it went to the Senate. So I'm not sure how close it is to the governor's desk, but we do have some invited guest speakers, pro and con. And Alex, I think you have the list of folks that have been waiting and are here to share their information, anything they can share about potential other employee benefits. That was one of the questions we asked, other employee benefits that we might be interested in outside of and in addition to prevailing wage. So Alex, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Marilyn. So for our first speaker, we have Matt Kapalbi. Matt, you've been elevated to a panelist. You'll be able to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, panelists and council members. It's indeed a pleasure to be here today. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we do
Alex,
hear
am
you.
I coming?
Yes,
Okay,
you're good.
very good. My name is Matthew Kapalbi. I am the Government Affairs Representative for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. We want to speak today in support of prevailing wage, which in the construction industry, we have all of our people are certified, qualified professionals with Department of Labor qualifications. And prevailing wage is really just a minimum wage for skilled labor. And we believe that all public projects should support local workforce and provide the necessary protections, benefits, and pay that our local people deserve. And unfortunately, here in Arizona right now, as far as wages and benefits, we have a race to the bottom. And prevailing wage helps stem that flow of qualified labor leaving the state. Right now, our industry is very similar to teachers, where here in Arizona, they get their teacher qualifications and then they move to another state where they can get higher pay. It's much the same in the construction industry. Our folks right now, once they receive their professional qualifications, be it bridge building, concrete, hospital construction, et cetera, they're going to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Denver, where the pay is almost double on these types of projects. So subsequently, we think it's important to keep our people here and keep our talent here and develop the workforce needed for our future growth. And we speak in support today of your prevailing wage ordinance. And I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Our next speaker is Jake Hyman.
All right, good afternoon, members. For the record, my name is Jake Hinman, and I represent the Arizona Multi-Housing Association. On behalf of the AMA, we wish to express our opposition to prevailing wage ordinance. The AMA, which represents owners, operators, and developers, the AMA is concerned that a local prevailing wage ordinance will have a detrimental impact on the city's future supply of affordable housing. A draft ordinance has been circulating and that appears to be modeled after an ordinance that was recently considered in the city of Phoenix, would likely capture all private development activity, including affordable housing construction. The stated purpose in the draft ordinance plainly suggests that the ordinance would apply to projects either directly funded or otherwise benefit from direct action by the city. The city has recently adopted strategies to address housing affordability, including the adoption of the Affordable Housing Strategy in 2019, and more recently, the city's Hometown for All initiative. As many cities and towns across the state, including the city of Tempe, contemplate ways to address the state's widening affordability gap, we believe adopting rules or regulations that potentially add considerable cost to housing construction undermine these stated goals and initiatives. For a local prevailing wage will make housing more expensive to build, and we can look towards other communities that have adopted similar ordinances. For example, in one prominent study, University of Cal Berkeley program on housing and urban policy, researchers studied the effects of California's prevailing wage laws on construction costs of low-income housing. Their research noted the following. Since prevailing wage rates are almost invariably higher than market wages, the new law may significantly increase construction costs in affected projects, perhaps to the point where they no longer be financially feasible. Economic evidence based on microdata covering 205 residential projects subsidized by the California Low-Income Housing Tax Credit since 1996 and completed by 2002 demonstrates that costs increase substantially under prevailing wage requirements. Estimates of additional construction costs in the author's most extensive models range from 9 to 37%. We also have serious legal concerns with the prevailing wage ordinance, especially in light of the fact that the state has preempted the city in this area. As the state continues to rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic and when new housing construction may drop considerably in the next few years, the city should be extra cautious of anything that could result in fewer housing units brought to market. It is for these reasons that the AMA opposes the adoption of any prevailing wage ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Our next speaker is Gerald Barrett. Gerald Barrett, I have elevated you as a panelist. You'll be able to unmute yourself now.
Hello?
Hello, Gerald.
Thank you. Members of the council and other participants here, I represent a Jorge Aguilar who owns Landcraft Design. They provide architectural and landscape work for the city of Tempe as well as other institutions. And they support passage of this ordinance. It's by no coincidence that we're hearing all of the problems that restaurants and hotels have of attracting people to work. It's not simply a problem of people receiving unemployment benefits. It is also the fact that people who lost jobs in that area are now moving into other industries because they realize the pay is better and conditions are better. And what happens when there is no minimum wage or prevailing wage is you have a great deal of instability in labor prices. And as one of the prior speakers mentioned, it is a race to the bottom. And it is a race to the bottom based on trying to squeeze employees as hard as you can. Material suppliers don't cut their costs. It is an attempt to squeeze the price of labor. And that makes it difficult for companies like Landscape Design that want to do work the honorable way, that want to treat their employees fairly, because they're competing against people who essentially are denying their workers a fair wage. Passage of this ordinance will eliminate that problem, will bring some stability to the marketplace, and will assure that there will be construction companies ready, willing, and able to perform work for the city as needed. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Gerald. Our next speaker is Jim Tofiel.
Hello, Jim Toffel. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, Jim, we do.
All right, good afternoon, members of the council. I'm with Toffel Dent Construction. We're a family-owned company that specializes in multifamily construction with an emphasis on affordable housing. Over the last 15 years, we've built roughly 30% of all the affordable housing units in the state. I have extensive experience with prevailing wage rate projects and am strongly against this new ordinance. Adding prevailing wages to city-funded projects will add costs based on a number of factors. First, the prevailing wages are not always indicative of actual pay scales. The Davis-Bacon wage rates are established by the Department of Labor and over the years have been subject to input primarily from the unions. Union-based companies have a difficult time competing in right-to-work states like Arizona. With unions artificially inflating the labor rates, it levels the playing field for them and helps their companies be competitive. Second, prevailing wage rate projects have extensive paperwork requirements. We need to collect signed weekly timesheets from every person on the project with a log of their activities and pay. All this paperwork must then be approved by the city. In general, the paperwork alone adds between $30,000 to $100,000 per project. Third, many subcontractors won't work on prevailing wage rate projects. Prevailing wages create HR issues because employees get paid different amounts on different projects. They'll start to lobby to get staffed on one project instead of another, and then they're upset when the project ends and they get a perceived pay cut. Because a lot of subs won't do these types of projects, we cannot promise to have the best sub for the best price on a project. Last and most importantly, projects over 4 stories must use a commercial pay scale in lieu of the standard residential pay scale. Many rates are double or triple on a 5-story building from what they would be on a 4-story building. This effectively raises the total cost of construction on any projects 5 stories and up to the point where the project does not work financially. In other words, prevailing wages will destroy high-density residential development, which I think is important to Tempe. According to the Department of Labor, the construction industry is currently the fastest growing industry in the state of Arizona. Since 2016, the construction industry has grown by over 40,000 jobs, and there continues to be a very strong demand for skilled labor. The industry has responded with a renewed focus on building apprenticeship programs, and we're starting to see younger individuals join the trades. Salaries have increased on their own, and individuals who work in the construction field do not live in poverty. Most skilled tradesmen make upwards of $70,000 a year. Within my company, across all employees, the average yearly salary is $96,000 a year. In California, many cities have their own prevailing wage rate scales. About 6 years ago, we did an affordable project in San Bernardino called Mountain Breeze. The project was a rehab of 168 apartments, and it had a fixed budget of $30,000 per project. The project was originally designed and estimated without prevailing wage rates, but when the city donated funds to the project, it became a public works project and was subject to both Davis-Bacon wages and San Bernardino wages. We had to go through each trade and determine the higher of the 2 wage rate scales and ensure that everybody was paid the minimum amount. The end result was that the project went up about 35%, and the scope of work had to be reduced to stay within budget. This means that we could not do basic upgrades, which would have improved the energy efficiency, sustainability, and livability of the complex. While I understand it's the intent to ensure that public works projects are paying people working on the project a good livable wage, individuals in the construction industry generally do not fit into that category. Additionally, there will be unintended consequences. It'll be more expensive to build in Tempe, and it'll make it more difficult for projects to work financially. The increased costs for construction will need to be passed on to the tenants, who are generally our community's least privileged. Some projects will not get built, which will further reduce the housing supply and raise housing costs. As with most types of legislation, the devil's in the details. There are ways this can be implemented that will be more harmful to Tempe than to others, but that will likely be decided at a staff level. It is my opinion that if you want to continue to see high-density development in Tempe and create jobs, which will lead to higher salaries through normal market forces, the best way to do that is to eliminate barriers, not create new barriers. Development and construction are high-risk industries, and when deciding what we want to do, we look at the risk and reward. Ultimately, anything that Tempe can do to reduce risks will improve the amount of development, Legislation like this prevailing wage rate bill will destroy development and kill jobs. It will raise housing costs and have the opposite impact of the intent. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jim. Our next speaker is, let me see here. Oh, Nick Corillo. One sec. Nick, you've been elevated. Go right ahead.
Okay, just want to check you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. My name is Nick Carrillo, and I'm here today to speak in support of a prevailing wage ordinance. I am the association executive for the Western Wall and Ceiling Contractors Association, a multi-state signatory contractor association representing contractors here in the Valley. And I think a lot of scripted stuff here. I kind of want to just talk a little bit about what it is when you look at a prevailing wage, because I think there's a lot of perception that it's just a mandated wage across the area and we're going to be told what the wage is. But in fact, we're just asking that it takes a look at the people. The people are the thing that are the folks that matter the most. We're very fortunate that in the construction industry, we talk about inclusivity, that 99.1% of the wage is the gap from women to men when the national average is 81.1%. So we got an inclusivity. We want to meet safety regulations. We want to meet a livable wage, and we want to do things better for the people that build the city. So when we're looking at a city today and we're looking at who puts it there, it's the people that put it there. And every cost around those individuals is being raised: the material, the land, the opportunity to simply live in that city. But yet we're trying to limit the development or encouragement of better wages for the individual that builds that city. So you're going to find support from the community of contractors that are represented by the WWCCA that will give a reasonable and fair wage for an honest day's work in the city of Tempe. And I'm done there.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Eric Emmerich. I can't make you a panelist, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. One moment. Eric?
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating and Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. For the record, Eric Emmerich with Dorn Policy Group, and I represent the Tempe Chamber of Commerce on this particular issue. In response to last month's council committee meeting, the Tempe Chamber surveyed its members who are contractors. Many of the names are familiar to you: Caliente Construction, J.E. Dunn, Sunt, all based in Tempe. Others are subcontractors that operate as mom and pop shops around our community. Interestingly, not one of the more than 20 firms that the Tempe Chamber contacted thought the prevailing wage requirement was a good idea. In general, most contractors noted that the policy won't do anything under the current market conditions, as discussed last month. However, over time, a prevailing wage will cost Tempe residents more money without any measurable change in project quality. Other respondents noted the impact on local subcontractors. They said, quote, many contracts that demand prevailing wages reduce the number of qualified bidders. The contracts and adherence to prevailing wage requirements complicates selected trades and field crews who qualify and manage the documents, unquote. Lastly, the Tempe Chamber has long been a partner with the city of Tempe on protecting its revenue sources, especially the state capital. The Tempe Chamber is concerned that if the city goes down a path that even appears to conflict with ARS 34-321, a 1487 claim may be filed against the city by a state lawmaker. As you know, 1487 refers to a piece of legislation that is now state law, whereby an alleged municipal violation of state statute is investigated by the Attorney General's office. If the municipality is found to have violated statute, it may have its state shared revenues or a portion thereof withheld. In conclusion, the Tempe Chamber opposes this policy and believes it's not worth following for the following reasons. One, over time, it will increase the price of contracts in Tempe according to the industry, not advocates. Two, It has the potential to exclude small local contractors that would otherwise be able to compete on price within market conditions. 3, it will cost the residents of Tempe more money for the same quality of work. And 4, it may jeopardize the more than $20 million of City of Tempe state shared revenues each year. Thank you, co-chairs. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. And our last speaker is Israel Torres. Israel?
Yes, ma'am. Just doing a quick mic check.
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating and Councilmember Arredondo Savage for the opportunity to speak to the committee. As a longtime Tempe resident, Corona del Sol graduate, ASU graduate, raised kids in Tempe, graduated 2 of them from Tempe high schools, own a commercial building in Tempe, and actually have my law practice based in Tempe. I'm really proud of the committee and the city for engaging in this discussion that's going on in municipalities statewide. I represent the Arizona Building Trades and Construction Council. We're highly supportive of a prevailing wage ordinance in Tempe. One, it builds employee loyalty. I think Mr. Barrett talked about the firm that he represented and how they actually, the owner of that company actually sees that his employees are more loyal to his own company. It promotes a more skilled workforce as we build our projects in Tempe, and that's public and private. It also promotes apprenticeship programs that graduate students, leading to a career as a skilled worker, which, as we know from the industry, we need more and more skilled workers in the construction trades. We know it benefits local economies. We know that when wages increase, we know that workers spend more on local economies. We had this discussion when Prop 206 passed, raising the minimum wage. We had a $1 billion state budget surplus, and we've been doing well since we passed minimum wage. So more money in workers' pockets means more people eating at restaurants, more benefits to that local economy. And last, it paves the way to a strong middle class of highly skilled workers, providing them the ability to buy homes and establish strong and stable Tempe neighborhoods. And this prevailing wage ordinance decreases the utilization of taxpayer-funded public assistance programs like healthcare, housing. I've always said, what a concept, we pay our workers enough that they don't have to live in affordable housing because they can actually afford to buy a home and raise a family, and other social services. So I've heard a number of things about how this is a union thing, and I would just, as a matter of fact, like to state for the record, this prevailing wage has nothing to do with unions. Rather, it protects the local county wage, union or not. In fact, the Affordable Housing Group, I think Jake Hinman, and the contractor that we're speaking, the residential wage determination in Arizona is much different than it was in California for the project they built out here. In fact, the local wage determination for Arizona and Maricopa County, there's not one union rate that actually prevails. So this really doesn't have anything to do with unions or not. It has something to do with the local county wage as determined by the Department of Labor for what prevails in the area. It's also important to note that Denver, Austin, the state of Colorado have all recently passed prevailing wages. They support affordable housing. They promote affordable housing. They promote construction in their downtown cities, high density areas. We haven't seen anything crash and crumble and economies burn in Denver, Austin, or Colorado as a state. So I would ask you to please look at the details of this. I know Marilyn had asked about House Bill 2014. I could give a quick update on that. It's actually a strike-all bill. It's over in the House. The bill doesn't have the support to pass, as evidenced by last Thursday and Friday. The bill was pulled and not voted on. Now, the budget was dropped today, so I suspect that bill probably will go away. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the building trades. We highly support a prevailing wage ordinance in the city of Tempe. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Israel. That is all of our speakers for today.
Thank you very much, Alex. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, I was just going to wrap it up, which Alex just did. So I'll mute my mic and let the council members provide some context.
Thank you very much. Thank you all who spoke for or against this item. You know, it's no secret that I am in support of a prevailing wage ordinance in the city of Tempe. I want to be clear. I was only seeking it on, public works projects, city-funded projects, not private development projects. Obviously, we have to see what's going to happen at the legislature. But regardless of that, I've always felt that it was a better governing policy to unite and lead rather than to divide and conquer. So those that spoke against it, I'm happy to meet with you either individually or separately to get a better understanding of your concerns. I do think there probably is a world where there's a middle ground here that maybe no one's totally happy with, but we can all live with. And I would eventually at some point like to seek that out. So, I'm always open. I'm happy to have my assistant reach out to you to set up these meetings. But it's important that, if Tempe ends up moving on this issue and we do something, that we do have the support of a majority of, our construction, companies in the city, our stakeholders in the city, because it's important that people buy into what I believe is a good policy. So, that all being said, let's make sure the conversation stays open. I'm not 100%er. I'm more of a 50 to 75%er. So I do believe that there's a world where we can kind of come together and get something done that is good for Tempe workers and Tempe businesses as well. But for now, I think we should just kind of, quietly table this and look at, some other issues facing the city of Tempe. And maybe, after the legislative session is over, we'll have a better idea of what our options are. And we'll have a better idea, we'll have had these meetings with people that are for and against. Maybe we can come up with something in the future. But for now, it seems like there's a lot of plates spinning, and we got to see where those land before we can move forward with this. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you for all the stakeholders, for everybody taking the time to speak about this. I know it's, and not that anybody is wanting to take a side, but I think everybody wants the same thing in a way, is to ensure that our workforce, has a nice quality wage, so they too can have a quality of life, which I certainly support, and I'm sure everybody on this call supports too. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know where the Vice Mayor has stood, and I know he knows where I stand too, which I do not support putting together a prevailing wage policy. That's not where I feel like we should be spending our time, our energy, and our resources. I have yet to really truly understand where there may be an issue in regards to what problem are we trying to fix within Tempe. And as we do move forward, if we do move forward, I'm totally fine for tabling this for now. Like you mentioned, Vice Mayor, I agree. There's definitely a lot of plates spinning, and I'd like to see where they all land first. But just so everybody's kind of clear with it. Oh, hold on just 1 second. Sorry about that. just so you're clear. And one thing that I would like to see if we could spend some time and energy on would be our workforce development. I've been on a lot of national committees with the National League of Cities, and we've been talking a lot about the infrastructure bill that's probably going to be coming out. And one thing that the cities and the communities across this country are really trying to incorporate is workforce development. And I know there's a lot of things that we do right now. In human services, we have a workforce development coordinator. We're working on Career Ready. We have adopted Achieve 65, and we are really looking at different ways that we can improve our own employees, our own residents here in the city of Tempe. And that's where I really want to spend our time and our energy, and see if there are places that we can upskill people, educate people to so they too can be certified for a quality job, which I think there are. And if our respondents from our local RFPs came to me and said, hey, yeah, we do have a problem with the wage, which honestly, I haven't heard from one. So if that is an issue and that's a problem with us locally, then, I'm definitely happy to take that up and take a look at it and work through it is if this comes back at some level. But right now, I would really like to see us in the future, on a future agenda item, really focus on workforce development. I'd like to learn from our stakeholders. What can we do to ensure that you have the skilled workers that you guys need to be successful? How can we ensure that we are reaching our local residents? Because that is what's most important to me. And I would be more than happy to spend some of our time and energy trying to figure out how we can make that even better, how we can get our departments to work together with economic development and the great things that they're doing, our local partners, the things that they are doing, bring things together, look for gaps and figure out ways that we can fill those. So again, I do appreciate everybody. Vice Mayor, I'm totally fine with your plan, but I would like to see in the future if we could add maybe an agenda item about workforce development. I would certainly like to see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. With that, the next item on our agenda is new items for consideration. It looks like you have a few. Do you want to speak to these issues?
Sure. I do. Hold on, my computer just shut down. Just a couple of things. I think I mentioned one right there that I definitely would like to have that conversation about is the workforce development. And you can see them on the agenda. I think you put them on there, right, Alex?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. Well, I have them over here. I have more, just some things that I'd like to talk about, and then I mentioned them before, and I think that we've talked about too, Vice Mayor, is about how we can enhance and some of the things that we're currently doing in the city of Tempe, and one of them was workforce development and readiness and career readiness. Just thinking it would be great to have a presentation of what we are currently doing, how can we expand the things that are working, or focus on things that maybe we are not doing that we could definitely be doing. It'd be great to really go back and look at the data points where we are with Achieve 65. And then also really work on career readiness and College Connect and see how we can help those different programs and initiatives, and we can make them ensure that their success. I think now going through this pandemic, we've realized how important it is, you know, to stay connected with our families, with our youth, with our adults that are looking for a career or an education pathway. And I think, you know, if we can at least let them come and talk to us and we can go through it a little bit and get some more stakeholders on board, I think we can definitely elevate those. That would be super great. And then the other thing that I think now's a great time to do it is to really just talk about special events and economic development and how those two really tie together, and then, you know, what the future of economic development is and vision and things like that. So those are just a few that are on the top of my brain, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, council member. I have a couple as well. I already mentioned the Open Tempe app. I would like to look at expanding that for increased, you know, filtering and search functionality, as well as giving businesses the opportunity to directly upload content, whether that's like a special of the day or what have you. That's something we'll have to work out with the local developer, a Tempean who volunteered his time to give us version 1.0. So I'd like to use him again for version 2.0, you know, and that's going to be a matter, you know, if we can find the money to do so. You know, I know we've already allocated the money for this budget year, so it may be more easier said than done, but it's definitely something I want to explore. Sorry if there's background noise. My laundry washer's running pretty loud right now. Apologize for that.
I didn't know you washed your clothes. Do you actually wash your clothes?
I'm actually washing my sheets, if you can believe it. So another item I would like to discuss in the future is I've been working with a local union representative. Oh, actually, she's not local, but she spends a lot of time in Arizona because as part of her job capacity, she works with a lot of the Arizona trades. And she's talked to several of them that are very open to hiring some Tempe homeless or bringing them into their local apprenticeship programs. So I'd like to kind of revisit Tempe Works and see if there's an opportunity for us to partner with these construction trades to get some homeless Tempeans, you know, into apprenticeship programs, which will put them on a career path and, you know, hopefully make them self-sustainable for the rest of their lives. So I do have contact information I can give the staff, and we can, you know, get some sort of presentation or plan whenever they're ready to do that. I know I don't necessarily think it's going to be next month because it's probably a more complicated process than I certainly understand, but I do want to you know, get the ball rolling on that to see if there's something that we could possibly do in partnership. And that's all I have. So let's see. Our next item on the agenda is announcements. Councilmember Reynaldo Savage, do you have any announcements?
Other than the fact that you washed your clothes today? No, Vice Mayor, I have none.
It was my sheets.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. All right, great.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll let you make all the announcements.
Okay. All right. The only announcement I have, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Memorial Day. I hope you get a chance to spend some time with family, enjoy some barbecue, and maybe go swimming. The weather's kind of getting to that point where we can get in the pool. Our next meeting will be Monday, June 28th, 2021 at 3 p.m. You all can join us. And, with that, the meeting's adjourned. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate your help.